Here's the truth. That great motor oil panic is mostly BS, and drivers are paying the price right now because America is apparently running out of motor oil. Well, at least that's what the mainstream media keeps telling us. And that is the latest panic campaign making the rounds online and getting amplified by literally every outlet that you can find, whether it be social media or your regular media, all designed to make consumers nervous enough to start stockpiling products they probably didn't even need. Does that sound familiar? Well, it should, because you already lived through the toilet paper hysteria, where Americans were told shortages were everywhere, shelves were stripped bare. Remember, we all stood in line. You could only take one package of toilet paper. It was all panic buying. And the retailers quietly raised prices while everyone blamed supply chains. And now that same playbook is being used again, but this time it's with synthetic motor oil and other oil-based products. But here's the part of the headlines that are intentionally being left out. There is no nationwide motor oil collapse happening. Your car is not about to become undrivable, like some people are saying on social media, and Americans are not suddenly running out of lubricants. Most drivers will probably notice little more than higher prices and fewer discount sales. And that's the real story. Yes, there is a legitimate supply issue involving some specific synthetic-based oils used in certain ultra-low viscosity lubricants. But the media narrative is turning a narrow industrial issue into another broader consumer panic. And once again, fear is becoming very profitable. The actual problem involves high-end Group 3 base oils used in specific synthetic formulations like 0W8 and 0W16 and certain original equipment specified blends required in some newer vehicles. These are thinner oils designed primarily to help automakers meet fuel economy and emissions targets. Not your traditional oil, not your traditional synthetic. It's not the standard stuff that you're going to find laying around. It is what is for specific engines. And that's a very different story from America's running out of oil and everyone's going crazy, running with their hair on fire. This is not another toilet paper situation, which I believe was completely manufactured. Most conventional motor oils are still widely available, and most drivers using common viscosities like 5W30 or 10W30 or 10W40 are not likely to face major supply issues. You can still walk into most auto parts stores and retailers and service centers and find plenty of oil on the shelf, whether it be a blend or regular traditional crude oil. But the nuance doesn't generate clicks, and that's why they're amplifying it. Instead, social media influencers and breathless news coverage are lumping everything together under the terrifying word shortage, because panic spreads faster than facts, doesn't it always? And suddenly consumers start hearing rumors that oil changes may become impossible. Stores will run dry and everyone needs to buy cases of motor oil immediately before it disappears forever. And that panic buying itself becomes the problem. It also is very profitable. Now, the toilet paper fiasco proved how quickly consumer psychology can create artificial shortages. There was never a true nationwide inability to manufacture toilet paper. The system broke because consumers started hoarding far more than they normally would purchase. How much do you actually need in reality? Overwhelming distribution and retail inventory systems, they couldn't handle it. And that was never designed for panic-level buying behavior, because no one ever panics about buying toilet paper. There's plenty of it on the shelf today. And now we're watching the same pattern develop in automotive service. Some repair shops and distributors are already stockpiling certain synthetic blends because they expect higher prices and tighter inventories. Consumers are hearing shortage and buying extra oil they otherwise would not have to purchase. That's always good for the person selling it, isn't it? And retailers are responding by raising prices early, sometimes well ahead of an actual supply impact. Again, the profits are always where to look. And that raises an uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask out loud. How much of this is genuine supply pressure? How much of this is opportunistic pricing? I think you already know the answer to that, because there absolutely is a real supply issue affecting some previous synthetic-based stocks imported from overseas. Shipping disruptions, refinery problems, and instability in parts of the Middle East and Asia have tightened supply for certain specialized lubrication. That's the part that is real. The American Petroleum Institute, API, even activated emergency provisional licensing flexibility for some lubricant formulations because certain approved ingredients become harder to source. And that's not something done casually. But that still does not mean the average driver is about to face empty shelves nationwide. And the reality is much narrower than the headlines suggest. The biggest exposure is concentrated in newer vehicles requiring highly specialized ultra-thin synthetic oils. That includes some newer Toyotas, Honda, Hyundai, Ford, and GM engines designed around low viscosity lubricants. Now, if you don't know what that means, talk to your favorite ASE certified technician. Look it up online. This is going to be a very narrow group of vehicles. And if you have an older vehicle, it probably doesn't apply to you at all. But don't worry, they're going to raise the prices on your next oil change anyhow, because that's how this goes, just like toilet paper. And those owners could face higher prices if you use that special oil, fewer choices, or occasional temporary shortages of specific formulations only. That's inconvenient. It's expensive, but it's not an automotive apocalypse like the mainstream media is screaming about. And honestly, this situation exposes a bigger issue the automotive industry created itself. Modern engines have become increasingly dependent on hyper-specific lubricants, largely because automakers were chasing federal fuel economy targets. We talk about this on the channel all the time. And thinner oils reduce internal drag slightly, helping manufacturers squeeze out small efficiency gains that look good on government testing charts because they don't want the fines. Previous administrations had charged a fine if they didn't meet certain fuel economy standards, and now that that's gone, now they might be a little bit more flexible on which oils they choose, and maybe you'll have a choice rather than being forced into that ultra-specific oil that you may not actually need that could only save you 1 mile to the gallon. But that engineering strategy also created greater dependence on specialized synthetic supply chains. Older vehicles were often far more forgiving, and many could run multiple oil viscosities without major drama. Today's engines are increasingly calibrated around exact formulations, exact additives, and exact viscosity requirements. So check your owner's manual. That's the book in the glove box underneath all the napkins and ketchup packs. It might give you a variation that you can use one type or another. Make sure to read that. And then when you go to ask for an oil change or do it yourself, you use what's correct for your vehicle because you don't want to void the warranty. And that means even a relatively small disruption in specialized synthetic oil supply, if that's what you're using, suddenly becomes a much bigger issue for dealerships and owners of newer vehicles, and they're going to pay a higher price for that. And this isn't affecting every driver equally, again, like the mainstream media keeps telling you. So if you own an older truck running conventional 5W30, you're probably in much better shape than someone driving a brand new vehicle requiring a very, very specific OEM-approved 0W8 synthetic blend. Now that distinction really matters. But it gets lost once mainstream media starts chasing fear-driven headlines because it brings clicks, it brings attention, it makes you come back to their channel. And let's be honest, fear sells, and they know it. Potential pricing pressure for specific synthetic lubricants doesn't drive clicks. Motor oil shortage panic, that does. And that's why every normal supply disruption now gets framed like the collapse of a civilization. There's no more toilet paper, run to the stores. It's sort of like here in Buffalo when we have a snowstorm. It could potentially come and there's no bread, milk, or eggs on the shelf. Everyone runs and cleans out the grocery stores. Same type of mindset. But now they've amplified it beyond toilet paper into motor oil, and who knows what the next one will be. It could be a chip shortage. Oh, we've seen that before too. Because Americans are constantly being told to panic buy products before they vanish forever. And during COVID, it was toilet paper, and then it was fuel, and then it was generators, then it was eggs, and of course, chip shortages, hard to get cars, and now it's motor oil. Meanwhile, companies quietly benefit from consumers rushing out to buy products early at inflated prices that they probably don't need or may never need. And that doesn't mean the entire issue is fake. It means the reaction is becoming larger than underlying problem actually is in itself. The smart response here is not to panic. It's perspective. If your vehicle requires a highly specialized synthetic oil, again, check that owner's manual, keeping enough of that for your next oil change, that's reasonable. That's preparation. But buying a lifetime supply because someone on TikTok said, the shelves are going to be empty, you'll never see this again, it's over with, is exactly the kind of irrational behavior that creates unnecessary shortages in the first place. So don't believe everything you see on social media. You need to do your own homework. For most Americans, this story will likely show up as higher maintenance costs, reduced sales promotions, and occasional difficulty finding certain premium synthetic blends. That's annoying, especially when the vehicle ownership costs are already skyrocketing from inflation, insurance increases, expensive repairs, and high interest rates. But for the vast majority of drivers, your local store is not about to become a post-apocalyptic wasteland with empty oil shelves, that chaos in the parking lot, people fist fighting each other for a bottle of motor oil. The bigger concern should actually be how quickly Americans are manipulated into panic consumption cycles. Every time there's even a modest supply disruption, people freak out. That cycle has become predictable. I've given you a few examples, and I'm sure you can think of others. You can put it down in the comments below. A real but limited issue can emerge, and then social media magnifies it. Mainstream media escalates it further. Consumers panic buy, retailers raise the prices, and somebody's making a lot more profit. Temporary shortages appear because of the panic itself. Then everyone pretends the original hysteria was justified all along. We've seen this movie before. And unless consumers stop reacting emotionally every time a scary headline appears, we'll probably see it again because they know how you're going to react. And then it'll be the next product and the next product or the next service, and everyone's going to have to buy it. Don't get tricked. Don't get fooled. Do your homework. And if you do use that very special oil, buy a couple extra quarts, have it around just in case. For the rest of us, you're going to be just fine. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, and check out our car review channel, Car Smarts. You can support me by buying me a cup of coffee, and if you want even more content, check out the links in the description. I'm Lauren Fix. Thank you so much for watching.